Welcome to the Hello Sunday podcast with me, Nikki Hayden. This is the podcast that discusses everything self-development, spirituality and sobriety. And it wouldn't be me without a little sprinkling of humour. Whether you are just starting out on your journey of self-development or have been exploring these topics for years, are completely alcohol-free or just curious about living a more sober lifestyle, this is the podcast for you. Each week, I'll be exploring topics in both solo episodes and with some amazing guest experts. So if you like what you hear, then please subscribe, rate and review. So with that said, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back to another episode of Hello Sunday. I hope you're all really good. Welcome back to those of you who are OGs or have been here before. And if you're new to this podcast, then welcome. Today, we're going to talk about something super exciting that I think we've all been waiting for. Not necessarily the podcast episode, but definitely the event itself. And that is spring. And guys, it's felt like a long, long winter. I think because the weather's just been so cold and so wet, so miserable in the UK. Can't talk about any other countries. But yeah, the UK's just it's been a long old winter. So I'm so glad to say that spring is finally upon us. And that's what we're going to be chatting about today. We're going to be chatting about the spring equinox. I am going to give you a little history lesson. We're going to talk about some of the things that we can do at this time of year, some of the rituals, renewing of energies, and yeah, just signify the start of one of my favourite months, if not everyone's favourite months of the year. So I hope you've all been really good this week. What have I been up to? To be honest with you, not a huge amount. I think, as I mentioned in a couple of episodes ago, life at the moment is very much sort of not Groundhog Day. I don't like saying Groundhog Day because every single day is full of magic and miracles and inspiration. But I'm very, very heads down focused on just getting myself on track with business and with fitness and with saving, because we want to be moving house in the next couple of years. So the last few months, and I think this really coincides with the seasons as well, it's been a real kind of like almost like a hibernation. It's just been not a lot of social events and a lot of heads down working and I guess accountability. And I think, like I said last week, tracking the progress and understanding where I've come from. And it's been great. Don't get me wrong. Like, I have loved every minute of this new version of me. But there's definitely, now that spring is here, some changes that I want to make and some revisioning of the rest of this year, and also kind of like strategy and plans in general, to be honest, which I'll talk to you about shortly. So let's crack into the topic for today. So if you are listening to this on Sunday, on the Sunday that it comes out, Sunday the 24th, I think, then you will have been aware that on Wednesday, well, you may not have been aware, but if you pay attention to the changing of the seasons and the calendar dates as they stand at the moment, you will be aware that there was a spring equinox event on Wednesday. So Wednesday the 20th in the Northern Hemisphere was spring equinox, or as they refer to it, vernal equinox. So the spring equinox is essentially and if you hear me moving paperwork around in this episode, then just bear with. I've had to make some notes because, like I said at the start, it's going to be a mini history lesson as well, but I think it's just so interesting, and I really loved learning about why things happen and why we do the things that we do, and why we feel so connected to like nature and the sun, and how over the years that has kind of been changed by man and the patriarchy, to be honest. So I find it really interesting, and I hope that you will too. But I've had to make some notes because there's a lot to get through and a lot to kind of understand. So yeah, apologies if you hear me moving paper. But the spring equinox, it's basically when the sun crosses the celestial equator, and it marks the midpoint between winter solstice and summer solstice. So winter solstice, obviously, in the winter months. Summer solstice, I think, is in June, July. It marks the midpoint between those two events. It's the day where every spot on the entire planet experiences equal amounts of light as they do darkness. So 12 hours of light and 12 hours of darkness. And from that day on, in the northern hemisphere, each day thereafter has more light and more warmth from the sun, and we start to leave behind the winter months. And I think for a lot of people, that is a really exciting time of the year, because not only does it mean that we come out of our like little hibernation in our shells a bit more, that we just have more energy, we are more sociable, but it means that we can do more stuff outside. We can put the kids in the garden to play and not have to think, oh, what we do with them today because it's raining all day. Or, well, actually, I say that last summer wasn't the best weather-wise in the UK, was it? So let's hope and pray to the weather gods that that's not the case this year. We just have more outward energy. We tend to socialise more with our friends and family. We make more plans. We go on holidays. We can sit in our gardens and just enjoy nature. And it just brings a renewed energy and a renewed sense of life, I guess. So that's what it is in essence. It's the point in the year where light and dark are in equal measures. And from that day on until the summer solstice, when we start getting darker nights from that point onward, it's lighter nights and it is more sun and more warmth. And I think, you know, for most people, it is a really like poignant time of the year. It's a time of the year when you do start to feel more energetic. There are natural rebirths around nature. So, you know, all the animals start being birthed, and it's the time when we plant crops, and the crops that we planted in other months start to come up and bloom. So you see things like daffodils. It just makes sense that that is the start of a new year. It makes sense that the new rebirth and the new energy that we feel would mark the start of a new year and a new phase and a new birth. But as you know, we don't celebrate New Year on the spring equinox in the middle of March. Well, we don't by the Gregorian calendar anyway. And so I've mentioned on a couple of episodes that there was, you know, once upon a time, not that long ago, actually, not that long ago at all, in like the 15th and 16th century, where we used to celebrate the seasons of the earth, used to mark the start of things, and we used to have spring equinox as the start of the new year, and we used to be dictated by the moon. We used to follow the lunar calendar, and it all changed. And the reason that it all changed is it's debatable, but I think in essence a lot of people believe, and there's certain evidence to back this up, that actually women's cycles tend to go between 20-something and 40-something days, but on average 28 days. And that was the average amount of days that were in months previously. And so the patriarchy believed that linking our cycles to the moon cycles made women powerful, and in essence, as the givers of life, they didn't want us to have that power, so they changed the calendar. So let's talk more about kind of how that worked and what that looked like. So around 2000 BC, the new year began on the 25th of March. So even in ancient Persia, which is present-day Iran, they still celebrate what is called, I'm going to butcher this, so if I've got any Iranian friends listening, I do apologise. I think it's called Nowruz, and that is celebrated on the 21st of March each year, and it means new day. So the ancient calendar had 10 months in it. The ancient calendar went from March to December, and it had Latin for 8, 9 and 10 as October, November and December. So oct meaning 8, nov meaning 9 and dec meaning 10. It was lunar based. So that essentially means that it follows the moon cycles. So there was 10 moons or moon cycles that it followed, and there was about 70 days roughly that remained. So it went March to December in terms of the moon cycle. So full moon, new moon, full moon, new moon. And then at the end of that, they would have winter period, which was about 70 days long, where they just didn't name it anything. And I'll be honest, I can understand why. It is, I mean, my birthday's in January and my mum's, and it just is the roughest time of year, isn't it? January and February. Like, it's cold, it's dark. I mean, we're talking Northern Hemisphere here. So if I've got any Australian listeners, then obviously this is all flipped on its head for you guys. But the moon calendar is definitely, it's more relatable. You know, the moon has cycles for a reason. And then those 70 days at the end, it's like, just put them in the bin until the spring equinox. So that's how they did it. They had 10 moon calendars, moon cycles, and then 70-ish days at the end that weren't named. And then on the new moon, just before the spring equinox, that is when they would count the calendar from again. So as soon as there was a new moon in March, that is when the calendar would start again. So it was concurrent with spring equinox. So the Romans then came in and transitioned away from the lunar calendar to a solar-based calendar, as it seemed to better reflect the seasons. And then with that, they had about 60 unaccounted days. So they went with the sun calendar and did 10 cycles of that. And then at the end of the calendar, there was about 60 unaccounted for days, which they still didn't name. They just had it as kind of winter. And then in 715 BC, January and February were added to the calendar by the Romans. And then various Roman emperors continued tampering with the calendar, and it became out of sync with the sun. And then Julius Caesar decided that he was stating New Year as being the 1st of January from there on in. So from his reign, they celebrated New Year on the 1st of January. Now, the Roman people struggled with this. I mean, you can imagine if you've had, lunar and solar cycles dictating your calendar, and suddenly somebody changes that, and the new year doesn't start with the traditional spring equinox. It doesn't start with new birth and new sprouting of plants and baby lambs being born and daffodils and all that. It's really difficult. So a lot of them still celebrated in March. They still celebrated on the spring equinox. Eventually, the church became so big that they outlawed New Year celebrations altogether. Christianity outlawed, saying that they would essentially disown anybody that celebrated. They believed them to be pagan festivals. And in 567 AD, the date was then moved back to March. And it was this way for centuries, absolute centuries, until, as I mentioned earlier, recent years, really. I mean, to us in our lifetime, it doesn't feel like recent years, but in 1582, Pope Gregory VIII introduced the Gregorian calendar, which is the one that we use today, and moved New Year back to January, and it's been that way ever since. Now, it certainly doesn't feel like it should be the 1st of January. It feels very much like nature's got it right, and that nature knows what we as humans need. I know loads of us feel in the winter months, especially after December, after all the festivities for Christmas and the socializing and the celebrations, like we just don't have the energy and we just want to hibernate and we just feel like everything is a real like energetic struggle. And that is natural. It literally follows the laws of nature. If you look at anything in your garden other than evergreen trees throughout the winter months, they're not growing, they're not blooming. There's no flowers. There's millions of animals that hibernate. We as humans push and try and create things in the depths of winter when actually our natural desires and cycles are to be not hibernating in kind of the sense like a tortoise does, but to be lower energy and, mentally creating things, but resting, not putting all that energy out into the world, not starting a new fitness regime, not committing to things. Now, I am as bad as the next person for this because my financial year runs January to December for my business. A lot of my clients have the calendar year as their year. My success is dictated in terms of what the tax man wants to take as corporation tax by what I do January to December. So I do end up making plans and making goals and trying to outwardly push in January. And every year it just doesn't work. Every single year I feel like in January and February and even most of March that it's just a lot more of a struggle. For those of you that are regular listeners to the show, or maybe you know me personally, you won't have been able to get away without hearing me talk about Simprove. Simprove is a scientifically backed, water-based probiotic drink. You drink it daily and it has been scientifically proven to help with things like bloating, IBS symptoms, pain. It was actually a dietitian friend of mine that introduced it to me last year, and I honestly wouldn't be without it now. It's helped with my energy, with my bloating, it's helped with my immune system, and also things like my skin. The list is honestly endless. Now, I have got a code for you. So if you'd like to try Simprove, you can get 50%, that's a massive 50% off your first 3 month subscription by going on to simprove.com and putting in the code Nikki50. That's NIKKI 50, or clicking the link in the show notes. So that makes real sense. Spring is really when everything's meant to happen. It also coincides, spring equinox, with loads of practices around the world that celebrate the new season and new beginnings. So you've got Songkran in Thailand, which is a big Thai water festival which celebrates their new year. So it's basically like a massive water fight throughout the whole of Thailand. It's awesome. There is obviously Easter in the Christian faith, Passover in the Jewish faith. In Mexico, people gather at the big pyramid, all dressed in white to welcome in the sun. So there's loads of rituals and celebrations in spring that we just don't have in January. It's literally a date and a change of date, whereas actually nature dictates that this is the start, this is the beginning, and this is the rebirth. So with that in mind, and actually if you're listening to this on Sunday the 24th, yesterday on Saturday the 23rd, I went to a visioning class, so a spring equinox, kind of like revisioning, I guess, kind of re-energizing for the next season, for the next few months. So if anything really exciting happened there, or there was any learnings, I will share those with you on next week's episode. But I thought it would be good just to talk through some of the things that you can do and some of the things that I'll be doing to welcome in the new season, to welcome in spring, and to revision and replan and re-energize, ready for this new period and this new season. So the first thing that you can do is to spring clean your home. Now, anyone that knows me personally will know that I'm quite I wouldn't say a clean addict, but I'm quite on top of the cleaning. I mean, we don't have kids for a start, so that massively helps, but we are definitely, a family or a couple that especially me, that like really keeps on top of that stuff. But during the spring season, it is a great time, and I always feel like I really want to do this, to basically go through every single cupboard and drawer in your house, remove all of the crap, chuck out stuff that you don't use, get things fixed that are broken. Basically, make sure that your house going into the spring season has got rid of any like negative energies and any clutter and anything that is going to stop the energy flow, ready for the new season. And for me, that will involve getting rid of clothes. If I haven't worn them in the last year, then I'm probably not going to wear them. It will involve going through all of the kitchen and looking at the kitchen utensils we use. And, you know, if you've got like Tupperware that's like all crappy and all stained, like getting some new stuff, or if there's things that don't work, then getting them fixed. You know, if there's clothes that you need tailored or anything that needs doing, patching up, cleaning, just do it now. Put aside a day or two, or a morning or an afternoon, or whatever it might be that you can afford to do, and just go through your house and look at what are the things that are basically creating stagnant energy because I don't use them, or they are broken, or they need to go. And you can donate things, you can sell things, or you can just take them to the tip if they're of absolutely no use to anyone. But go through and give your house, a good spring clean, and just get it ready so that, you know, the new season comes and you want to open your windows, open the doors, let in the new energy. You don't then want your house to be full of shit and full of clutter. So that's the first thing that I do. And I'm going to be doing that today, actually, as you listen to this. And then something else that I actually don't do this here at this house because it's really hard to explain, but we've got 2 gardens, but one of them is just bushes and like a decking area. And then the other one is a patio, and it does have plants and it does have trees, but they were all planted a long time ago by a previous owner, and they've got like slate over the top of them now, so you can't really plant anything else there. But when I do have a house with a proper garden and proper soil, and if you do have, then planting seeds, planting things to grow in the coming months is such a great way of signifying new beginnings, new starts. It gives your borders of your garden that absolutely gorgeous burst of colour, so that every time you look out or you sit out there, you've got that really nice feeling of seeing all these beautiful plants and beautiful flowers, and just knowing that things are coming to life, that there's, you know, new energy out there. So planting seeds is a really good way to start the spring season. Getting outside. So now the weather is getting better, get outside more, even if it's not like beautiful sunshine, even if it is a little bit overcast or a little bit chilly. It's not the same as it being in the depths of winter when it's literally freezing and you can't walk without your eyelashes sticking together. The whole point of the spring season is welcoming in more light and more sunshine. And so opening your doors, opening your windows, creating some fresh air in the house, putting on a warm layer and going for a walk, or just sitting outside and having a coffee, maybe in the morning in your garden, is just a really, really great way to bring more of that season into your life and to make the most of it from the very, very start. Now, we've got a set of garden furniture outside, and I don't normally do anything with it until maybe like May, June time, because it's normally, May normally, because it's a pain to keep kind of taking all the cushions off and putting them in the garage and covering it and uncovering it. But I think this year I am going to do that, because otherwise we literally have 2, maybe 3 months where it gets used, and then it's back in again in the garage again from like September, October. So I think this year I'm going to really make the most of the outside, and we've ordered a jet wash, so I'm going to use that on all the patio slabs, and I'm going to get those cushions out, and I'm going to sit outside and have my morning coffee on the days where it's dry enough, and just make the most of being able to be outside. Have a bonfire. So if you've got stuff that you have picked up from the spring clean, I mean, obviously you need to be careful with like flammable stuff here and what's safe to put on a bonfire and what's not. I don't want to be responsible for anyone's house or garden going up in flames, but have a bonfire and get rid of the things that you don't use. So if you've got like old papers, like bills, maybe books or things that that you couldn't take to charity or give away, put them on a bonfire. You can buy those like bonfire barrels from Amazon, like kind of like a little fire pit. And that really signifies finishing with old things that you don't need anymore and new beginnings. The other thing is that on Monday the 25th, so tomorrow, if you're listening to this on the day it comes out, there's a full moon. Now, full moons are perfect for getting rid of anything that is no longer serving you, for creating space in your life by burning the things that you no longer want in your life or that don't serve you anymore. So write them down, write down anything that you don't want to take into the new season, and then you can have that bonfire to, symbolize essentially the end of that stuff and to actually burn it. It's also really nice to have a fire to sit around as well with like friends or family. It obviously keeps you a little bit warmer on those chillier nights, but it's a really, really nice like ritual, and it's what our ancestors did. Before electricity, we all sat around fires, so there's something just very animalistic and ritualistic around having a bonfire, having a fire. And then another thing that I do, and probably one of the most important elements of the spring equinox, and certainly the thing for me that is really going to be the focus, is goals, projects, and visions. So renewing goals and projects and setting new goals around things that you want to achieve. Maybe looking back, if you did the New Year goal setting in January or listen to that episode, maybe looking back at your quarterly goals, what you wanted to achieve, making sure that you're checking in with those. Do they still resonate? Are they still something that you want to move towards? Are you on track? And creating new goals and looking at, what you want your vision to be. Does that vision align with you? I know it was only 3 months ago, but, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't have changed. So I said at the start that there were some changes I was welcoming in. They're mainly to do with my business, to be honest. So I have worked in the same sector now for, 12 years? No, it's got to be more than that. Maybe 12 years, I think, in this sector. I've been in recruiting for a lot longer, but in this sector, I started in 2012. So 12 years. And the sector that I work in is amazing. It's all consumer. I do digital and e-commerce, marketing and commercial. So sales and marketing roles. And I've got a really great network. I've built it up. I love what I do. But the element of wanting to do good, wanting to be more purposeful, wanting to feel like I'm using my skill set to better the world and not just to sell more stuff, has been burning inside me now for ages. The misalignment between what I do sometimes and what I want to be doing is really strong. So I've been having a real think about it, and I'm not going to completely change sectors. I don't want to do that. But I'm going to align my client base and my outbound business development and the stuff that I am trying to actively create with businesses that are more aligned with my values. So things like health and wellness, lifestyle, obviously the eco and purpose-led brands have always been a focus, but they tend to be a bit smaller and a bit less cash rich. So I'm broadening my horizons slightly, but definitely working within health and wellness, well-being, nutrition, and things that are going to make people better, more well, healthier, and that I can feel super comfortable in working in. I don't want to be promoting alcohol brand. Well, I don't work with alcohol brands, but alcohol, sugary drinks, snacking, cereals, things like that just are completely out of alignment with who I am as a person and what I believe in. So I'm going to be creating a vision and a roadmap and a new strategy around this new focus for the business, because I just think that this is the perfect time to do it. It feels like a rebirth and a re-energizing. And like I say, it's not a complete pivot, but it's just a refocus and maybe dropping some of the focuses that I've had or some of the outbound that I've been doing in the wrong areas that's been taking my energy, and just refocusing it. And also with a focus on not only the UK but the US market as well, because I've worked in the US before and really enjoyed it. And there's obviously a massive market for health and wellness brands over there. So it feels really exciting. It feels like it's really re-energizing me, and it feels like the right time to be creating a new vision and making sure that that still aligns with the things that I put on my goal and vision board in January. And if it doesn't, then change it. You're not chained to your goals. You're not, just because you set them in January, if they don't align anymore or you don't feel that burning desire, then change them. Honestly, the only person that you have to be comfortable with justifying things to is yourself. Nobody else needs to be comfortable. I mean, within reason, obviously. I don't think that upping sticks and moving to the Caribbean without your kids or family would go down too well. But certainly I think, as long as they are not hurting anybody else, you need to go for what you want, and you need to make that an absolute focus, and not think that just because you've gone down a certain path, or what will people think, or what will, I've got to continue this now. The worst thing that you can ever do or ever think is, and the most damaging thing is, that just because you've done something for a long time that you've got to stick to it. It's not the case. It's really, really not the case, I promise you. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be creating a new vision, and hopefully the workshop that I did yesterday will really have helped with that. And I'm going to be creating a new vision board and some new goals, and just making sure that everything that is on there, that I keep on there, is still really in alignment, and setting those really clear intentions for this new season. So those are some of the things that I will be doing. There's also ceremonies that you can find around the UK. So I know there's an amazing one at Stonehenge, which is a sunrise ceremony. I unfortunately live completely the wrong end of the country, and it's the middle of the week. It was on Wednesday. So yeah, that's not something that I'm going to be doing this year, but create your own, wake up for the sunrise and welcome in the new season. Sit and have that coffee outside. Do a ritualistic fire burning ceremony with your friends to get rid of the things that aren't serving you. Set your new intentions and create that energy for this new season, because bitches, spring is here. It's soon going to be a lot longer nights, a lot more warm, a lot more sunny. There's going to be barbecues in the garden. We're all going to be seeing a lot more of each other, and it's just the most exciting season. I absolutely love it. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and I hope you have a fantastic week, and I will see you all again next Sunday. Thanks for listening. You can find us on Instagram at HelloSundayPod, or you can email us on hellosundaypod@outlook.com. Have a great week.